Our first player, STIE Olympics Rock and Roll, is the one and only Jaguar King, who uses King as a character. He's picked King 19 times for a 26% win rate. But he's shown so much aggression and capability as well. He's brought it to final rounds against so many different players, but unfortunately unable to close it out for the most part. But I know he's still breathing and kicking here in the competition. He's picked Gigas one time for a 0% win rate, unfortunately, so I'm not sure if we'll be seeing that anytime soon.
And of course, Smart Omega's Pica here, having a 40% win rate over week 1, 4 total picks, but of course the 11 picks right here are the Armor King. This is why we've been talking about this Jaguar matchup, if Pica's gonna pull it out or not. 27% win rate, so that's a little questionable on that end, but I personally will want to see it. 5 picks on that Master Raven with a 20% win rate, and 2 picks on Yoshimitsu with a 100% win rate. And that just shows that Pica has other characters in his belt, and that's what makes it scary. But of course, here it is, the game record.
Game record 2-1 in favor of Pica. They did meet in the 3rd day of this conference, and we were expecting a Jaguar battle, but Pica actually decided to avoid that and go for the Master Raven in that matchup. Rock and Roll had a great start, but Pica actually knocked him off beat a little bit when he switched, especially to Dragunov, and that Dragunov spelled the doom for Rock and Roll in that matchup. So here are our players getting ready, and look at that, giving a slight wave, obviously already comfortable, and Rock and Roll already signaling something interesting there. That's the Armor King pose, so maybe he's going to be switching out of the King pick.
But then again, that's also the signature pose that he likes to do whenever the player cams come in. The 2 thumbs Armor King pose, and then immediately going with the horns. Of course, once again, I am a disciple of the Church of Rock and Roll, so I know this all together. But really, I'm really excited to see whether or not Pica is actually going to pull out the Armor King for the Jaguar matchup.
It's interesting because that is his top pick so far in the conference, as we saw in the graphic earlier. Although the win rate is pretty low, he is definitely comfortable with the character. But then again, we know as a player, we know Pica is the type who will study so many different characters, and we know he's still hidden some other picks in his belt. I know he has a hidden, maybe a Lee out there. He's thrown out the Dragunov. We've seen the Dragunov come out, and we've also seen the Yoshimitsu with a 100% win rate in the two games that he's actually used the character. It's going to be about what he wants to surprise Rock and Roll with. He can bring out the Armor King, or he can bring out the Yoshimitsu. It's definitely just a flip of a coin for him.
It really is, but another thing to keep in mind is the fact that Pica really wants to play to win. He is at the edge of top 8, and that's a dangerous spot to play around in or please the crowd with, simply because you don't have much space to wiggle around. So we're probably going to see Pica think about the matchup, think about what's most optimal for him, or what he feels is the right choice.
And we're going to be seeing it just in a second, because we are now loading into the match. It's STIE Olympics Rock and Roll. Oh yeah, there it is. Pica opting to go for the Master Raven. Very consistent pick on his end. He knows the ins and outs of the character, and as we've seen in his matches, he knows all the bells and whistles that this ninja does have. So we're going to the Infinite Azure as well, an open stage, so no walls for Master Raven to actually carry.
Commencing mission.
Round 1. Fight.
Okay.
Oh,
Here we go. Quicksand. Gets the black hole as well. Okay. Pica with an early combo here in the tournament.
Definitely, and now Rock and Roll already at half health. This is really dangerous for him. Rage, Quicksand once again, and Rock and Roll in trouble. A pixel away, a single jab could... Oh my goodness! Perfect here from Pica. Good stuff from him. Good execution too. And Pica showing off why he wants to play the Master Raven. It's that proficiency.
And that is the same way that it started off in their previous match. Actually, Rock and Roll was unable to find the rhythm against the Master Raven, but eventually did manage to do so later on in the match, getting the win over Pika. But now here comes Rock and Roll, gets the buzz saw. Early combo here should put Rock and Roll into the red. He gets the Crusader on the back turn as well. Last chance for Rock and Roll, rising for 30 seconds left, burns the Rage Drive, no whiff punch, but Pika still manages to get the round.
Good stuff from Pika, keeping it patient, seeing that Rock and Roll might actually use the Rage as soon as possible. As of course, the Rage is a very important tool for Rock and Roll. He likes to go for that Rage Drive into the grab, but now Pika in trouble. There's a good tech there for the Giant Swing.
Yeah, you have to tech that Giant Swing just to reduce the damage, otherwise that's a serious chunk of your health. But still, Pika returns the favor immediately with that quick combo, showing off the mobility of Master Raven as well with a full use. A good presence of mind ducking that high, but doesn't get much out of it. After all, Master Raven doesn't have the best rising launcher.
Now, once again, Pika really pressing the issue and immediately going for that grab note. No break here from Rock and Roll, and Pika making a statement with that 3 rounds to none. No round brown from the big man himself. And Rock and Roll, let's see if he has anything up his sleeve, considering the fact, once again, all bets are off. You need to be as aggressive as possible. You need to get these wins as much as possible. So we might see him pull out another Jaguar.
Perhaps that is the case because as we saw, iba na talaga yung nangyari kumpara dun sa earlier match nila in the conference. In the first conference, actually, Pika won the Rock and Roll actually won the first match. Even with Pika on Master Raven, comfortable on that Master Raven, he managed to regain his momentum after a strong first round from Pika. But this time around, Pika did not let any of that happen. He went for a strong 3-0 against Rock and Roll, completely shutting out this king that Rock and Roll is so proud of. So maybe we are going to see the switch to Armor King.
And it was a really good game plan from Pika because the moment Rock and Roll gets space, he gets to play his game. It becomes a completely oppressive kind of environment for anyone who has to face off against him. As once again, King as a character is a flashy character, and you'll never know what he pulls out once he starts getting that rhythm going.
But speaking of being flashy, though, Master Raven is one of the flashiest characters as well. As a ninja, talagang she has the disappearing tricks. She has all the tumbles, and fundamentally, she's also very peculiar. She's not the most complete character in a sense. She doesn't have all the tools that a top tier character would so have. But when it comes to the mind games and the trickery, Master Raven is definitely one of those characters who excels at that. And oh my God, speaking of trickery, an interesting pick from Rock and Roll.
Oh, definitely. The Gigas. You have these long arms, you have great pokes. But once again, he's not entirely the greatest character out there when it comes to, let's say, tier list. But aside from that, if you're a good Gigas, you're a good Gigas. And let's see if Rock and Roll can redeem that 0 win rate that he had before.
That's going to be interesting. The win rate on this Gigas is definitely questionable. But maybe this is the pick that he needs to put a stop to this Master Raven. So here we go. Round number 1, Rock and Roll versus Pika. And good block immediately from Pika right from the get-go.
Good stuff from him. And now look at all this damage that's going to come out of the wall. Once again, Master Raven is one of those monsters at the wall. And immediately, no mercy from Pika. Immediately just going at it.
Yes, went for that command throw, and Rock and Roll actually caught not paying attention. Now, Rock and Roll, he has to bounce back here because Pika is obviously still hot from previous match. Good punish there from Pika. Rock and Roll trying to make use of those power crutches that Gigas is actually known for. Rock and Roll has the slight advantage in this match so far. Pika with the cancels, trying to make sure that Rock and Roll continues to be thinking. With 30 seconds left on the clock, it can still go either way.
Ooh, good punish there from Rock and Roll, and Pika already in rage. Rock and Roll does have a life lead. Oh my goodness, that sudden strike there from Pika does whiff, but now in the end, Rock and Roll takes advantage and goes for the Golem stance for a little taunt.
Those power crushes are going to be key for Rock and Roll because that is one of the best tools that Gigas does have, along with that launcher, of course.
Yep, definitely. And once again, that power crush, it's 80% damage reduction, if I remember correctly. And that's it makes people go greedy, but once again, Pika does not care. He's just pushing forward at the right time.
He just wants to pile on the damage as much as possible and completely stuff Rock and Roll out because
Oh.
Gigas has trouble maintaining some offense. He does have the mind games as well. He just goes for the launcher, both in the red. There's the rage drive from Rock and Roll, and Pica gets hit, gaining Rock and Roll his second round. So he's 1 round away from tying up the set.
Yep, that rage drive is definitely one of those tricky rage drives to think of. There's an unblockable, there's a mid, and there's also an extension that leads to a guaranteed unblockable. Now, Rock and Roll trying to space himself out. He does have the life lead, and Pica choosing to ignore the power crush by going with a tackle.
Because why not? Those power crushes, when you're actually doing a power crush, you cannot break throws. So that's one of the counters to the power crush mechanic. So Pica going for that tackle that was very smart of him. Pica breaks the balcony though. Can he finish off Rock and Roll? He should be able to, and gets him with that thrust as well. Final round is the last chance for Rock and Roll to actually get back at Pica.
Oh my goodness. Now Pica really seeing what Rock and Roll is doing with that Gigas. And he does know how the Gigas works after all. This is a coach after all, formerly. And Rock and Roll already at the reds. That low parry might be that sign of life that he's looking for. But Pica still has a substantial life lead. Oh, another low parry! Rock and Roll, are you a beast?
Oh, he definitely is. Those are some daring low parries here. Pica trying to get the kill. One last hit is all he needs. Burns the rage drive immediately. Rock and Roll chooses correctly in that sense. Good sidestep maneuvers out of the cross chop. Tries for goes something big. A huge block on that low as well. 20 seconds left. Rock and Roll trying to make some space. Not being impatient. A little bit too impatient at the end actually. And Pica with the whiff punish takes the 2-0 over Rock and Roll.
Oh, what a heartbreaker.